My family told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving because I'm too different, so I took my parents off my payroll and let them handle their own expenses. The phone call came on a chilly November evening, just a week before Thanksgiving. I remember because I'd been excitedly planning what side dish to bring, maybe my famous green bean casserole or a pecan pie. My mother's name flashed on my screen, and I answered with a cheerful, "Hey, Mom," expecting the usual small talk about travel plans or what time I'd arrive. Instead, her voice came through cold and hesitant. "We think it might be best if you don't come to Thanksgiving this year," she said flatly. I thought I'd misheard. I almost laughed, waiting for the punchline. "What? Why would I not come? I've already booked my flight," I replied, confusion knotting in my stomach. Mom inhaled sharply. "Listen, honey, it's just that your grandparents will be there and you know how they are. And Aunt Marjorie too. We just don't want any scenes. You being so different, it's hard for everyone." Different. That word stung like a slap. I knew exactly what she meant. I'd come out as gay 3 years ago, and ever since I'd felt a subtle shift in how some relatives treated me. Still, I never imagined my own parents would uninvite me from a family gathering because of it. "Are you serious?" I whispered, my throat tightening. A mix of betrayal and anger welled up in me. My heart hammered as I paced my living room. I could hear my mother talking to someone on her end, likely my father, who as usual didn't have the spine to talk to me directly. "It's just for the best," Mom continued, as if she were doing me a favor. "We can catch up at Christmas, or maybe over the phone. It's just one dinner." Just one dinner. Like I was asking for something unreasonable to spend a holiday with my own family. My voice trembled. "Mom, I'm your son. Why are you doing this?" She sighed, sounding irritated that I didn't just accept it. "You know we love you, but you have to understand how it is. People talk. Your cousin already mentioned how awkward it might be. We don't want drama at Thanksgiving." I knew exactly what she meant. She was bracing for Grandpa's disapproving grumbles or Aunt Marjorie's gossip, valuing their comfort over my inclusion. I realized then she wasn't going to budge. My presence, my existence, was an inconvenience, an embarrassment. Tears of anger and hurt burned my eyes. After everything I'd done for them, this is how they treat me? My silence spoke volumes because she added, "Try to understand, okay? We'll save you some leftovers." I couldn't breathe. A lump had lodged in my throat. Without another word, I hung up. I stared at my phone, her last words echoing in my head. Leftovers. They thought I should be content with scraps of food and of affection. Standing alone in my apartment's kitchen, a flood of conflicting emotions washed over me. Deep betrayal, hot rage, and underneath it all, crushing disappointment. I'd always known my family struggled to accept me for who I am, but I never thought they'd shut me out like this. My hands shook as I set the phone down. The excitement I'd felt about the holidays was gone, replaced by hollowness. I was not welcome at my own family's Thanksgiving because I was too different. Too different to sit at their table, yet somehow not too different when they needed my help. The irony tasted bitter. This was the final straw, even if I hadn't fully realized it yet. Thanksgiving had always been my favorite holiday. I used to help Mom mash the potatoes and watch football with Dad after dinner. Now, those happy memories felt tainted. The holiday I loved was being celebrated by my family without me because they cared more about what others might say than about having me there. Reflecting on sacrifice. That night, I replayed my mom's words over and over. Too different. I knew they were uneasy about me, but hearing it outright still broke something in me. I sank onto my couch, eyes burning, and started tallying up everything I'd done for my family over the years. Everything I had given, hoping to earn their acceptance. Growing up, I was the odd one out. In our small Ohio town, being the sensitive, bookish kid who preferred writing stories and tinkering with computers to tossing a football made me a target for my parents' fix-him efforts. Mom tried to mold me into her idea of a normal son, signing me up for Little League, pushing me to go to school dances, while Dad stayed mostly on the sidelines, going along with whatever Mom wanted. My younger sister, Mandy, was the golden child by default. Bubbly, outgoing, straight A's, at least until high school, and most importantly to Mom, effortlessly normal. I always felt I had to earn my family's love. I threw myself into academics and got a scholarship to a great college. I eventually moved to New York for a tech job that turned into a lucrative career. All along, I hoped success would make them proud enough to overlook the parts of me they didn't like. When my tech startup took off and I came into serious money in my mid-20s, I used it to help my family. I paid off their credit card debt as a Christmas surprise. Mom cried with joy and Dad gave me a rare hug. I thought I'd finally done it. Finally earned their wholehearted pride. In hindsight, that was when our relationship turned transactional. After that, I became their financial crutch. When Dad got laid off from the factory, I covered the mortgage so they wouldn't lose the house. I paid for Mandy's community college until she dropped out. I set up monthly deposits into my parents' account to cover their bills. It wasn't always altruistic. Part of me liked that they needed me. It felt like proof I was valued. In all that time, I never asked them for anything in return. I didn't mind. I thought that was what being a good son meant. Mom often said I was a good son for helping out. I lived for that praise. I ignored the twinge in my gut whenever the requests kept coming. A little extra for car repairs, some cash for Mandy's new business venture, money to fix the leaky roof. I always came through. Then I came out to them. It was on my 27th birthday. I was done hiding who I was, even if I wasn't sure how they'd take it. Over a video call, I told them I was gay. Mom's smile faltered and Dad went quiet. The first thing Mom asked was if I was sure. Then she fretted about what the neighbors would think. Dad said nearly nothing, just that it was a lot to take in. Later, Mandy texted me, basically saying she wasn't surprised, but that didn't mean she was comfortable. I remember ending that call and just sitting there, stunned and heartbroken. I wondered if they'd ever truly accept me. Still, I hoped time and my continued support would help them come around. They didn't yell or disown me. They mostly just swept it under the rug. The next time I visited home, Mom said gently, "Let's keep your personal life private around Grandma and Grandpa, okay?" That was the deal. I could be part of the family as long as I pretended not to be gay when it really mattered. It hurt, but I agreed by staying silent. I kept hoping time and my continued kindness would soften them. So I doubled down on being the ideal son in every other way. I sent more money, bought more gifts, tried to solve any problem they had. Maybe I was trying to buy the unconditional love I should have already had. Each gesture earned polite thanks, but nothing else changed. We never talked about my dating life or the fact I had a long-term boyfriend, introduced to them awkwardly as my roommate. I laughed off hurtful jokes some relatives made in my presence, and my parents never defended me. I felt like I was walking on eggshells to keep them comfortable. And still, I kept giving. My parents came to expect my support like it was their due. They'd mention bills and expenses in passing, and I'd volunteer money, and it was graciously accepted and quickly forgotten. Looking back on that heartbroken night, I realized my financial support had become a one-sided contract. I paid, and in return, they tolerated me. Not accepted, just tolerated when it was convenient. I thought about specific times I'd bailed them out, moments that had seemed like love, but now felt like manipulation. Saved the house from foreclosure and was called a lifesaver, but then I was told not to mention it to anyone. Paid for Mandy's car repair after her crash. She thanked me and then went on a vacation with friends, not even inviting me to her birthday party the next month. Sent money every month equal to Dad's old paycheck, while they never made a serious effort to get back on their feet. Each of those incidents I brushed off at the time, but now I saw them for what they were. Signs that my kindness was being taken for granted. All that generosity, and I was still the family secret, an embarrassment to be hidden whenever it really counted. The realization made me sick. I barely made it to the bathroom before throwing up, my stomach churning with anger and betrayal. Staring at myself in the mirror afterward, I looked as drained as I felt. I loved my parents and my sister, but their love for me had too many conditions. Now they'd finally said the quiet part out loud. I wasn't welcome unless I played by their rules. They told me I wasn't welcome at Thanksgiving. Fine. If I wasn't truly part of the family in their eyes, then why was I bending over backward to finance their lives? That was the moment my pity for myself turned into resolve. I might not have their acceptance, but I sure as hell had the power to stop funding their hypocrisy. I didn't owe them for the way they treated me. If anything, they owed me an apology and their own survival. Enough was enough. Cutting them off, instead of flying home that Wednesday, I stayed in New York. I ended up at my friend Jason's place for Thanksgiving. His big, lively family welcomed me with open arms. Their chatter and laughter made me feel welcome and warm, in stark contrast to the cold silence from my own parents. The more kindness Jason's family showed me, the more I felt the sting of what my own family had done. At one point, when everyone went around the table to share what they were thankful for, I simply said friends and hoped my voice didn't crack. I was genuinely grateful to be there, and painfully aware of why I was there. I tried to enjoy the food and the warmth, but I was pretty quiet, lost in thought. Jason noticed. Later that night, after most of the guests had left, we sat in his living room nursing beers. Jason finally said what he'd been holding back all evening. "You know, this whole thing is total bullshit." I managed a weak smirk. "Tell me about it." He shook his head, getting fired up on my behalf. "No, seriously. You do way too much for your folks and they treat you like this? Depending on you for everything, then telling you not to show up? That's not right." I sighed deeply. "They're still my parents. Family stuff. It's complicated." "Family doesn't mean you get to use someone as a doormat," he said bluntly. "They crossed a line, man. Honestly, they've been crossing it for years and you've let them." I opened my mouth to object, but nothing came out. He was right, and I knew it. I'd vented to Jason before about some of the guilt trips and money demands. He'd always been gentle in his advice, not wanting to insult my family, but I could see he was done holding back. "You deserve better," he continued, putting a hand on my shoulder. "Maybe it's time you stand up to them. Stop letting them take advantage." Hearing someone else say out loud what I had been too afraid to fully admit was jolting. I realized I'd been rationalizing and excusing their behavior for far too long. I gave a slow nod. "Yeah, it is time." That night, back in my empty apartment, I felt strangely calm. The decision had been made in my heart the moment Mom disinvited me, but now my brain was catching up. I had to cut them off, not to be cruel, but to finally draw a boundary that should have existed all along. I grabbed my phone and opened my banking app. My finger hovered over the scheduled automatic transfer to my parents that was due on the 1st of the month. That money covered their mortgage, utilities, the basics. They relied on it. Would it hurt them if I cut it off suddenly? Probably. But thinking of Mom's dismissive, "It's just one dinner," I hardened my resolve. I canceled the transfer. A confirmation popped up. Transfer canceled. Just like that, I had taken my parents off my payroll. My hands were shaking as I set the phone down, my heart pounding in my ears. I was giddy and terrified all at once, because I knew there was no going back now. It felt shocking and liberating at the same time, like stepping off a moving train. I sat in the dark of my living room, adrenaline coursing through me. For the first time in years, I wasn't tied to them by money. There was no immediate reaction, of course. I had a few days of quiet. But as soon as the 1st of December hit and that money didn't land in their account, the storm came. It was a Saturday morning when my phone rang. Dad on the screen. He almost never called me. It was usually Mom for everything, so I knew something was up. I steeled myself and answered. He didn't even say hello. "What the hell is going on?" he barked. "Your mother's card got declined at the store. When hit, the money never came in." I swallowed, my mouth suddenly dry. "I canceled the transfer," I said. He was silent for a second. "Canceled it? Why?" He sounded genuinely baffled, as if the very idea of stopping that money was beyond comprehension. My voice came out surprisingly even. "Because I'm done, Dad. I'm not going to keep paying for everything, especially not after being told I'm not welcome at family events." "What are you talking about?" he snapped. "We count on that money. How are we supposed to live? You don't just pull the rug out from under your family. After all we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" My temper flared. "All you've done for me? Let's be real here. I've been paying your bills, Dad, because you haven't gotten a job since you were laid off. I paid for Mandy's college. I saved the house. And in return, you all treat me like I'm some dirty secret. I'm your son, not your ATM. If I'm not welcome as a son, then my money isn't welcome either. Watch your tone, he growled. We're your parents. Show some respect. I almost laughed at the irony. Respect is a two-way street. You haven't shown me much lately. Dad started to argue, but I was on a roll. All the pent-up hurt was spilling out now. Did you really think I would just keep footing the bills after Mom told me to stay away? You made me feel like a freak, Dad, like I'm only good for my money and nothing else. He sputtered something about me, misunderstanding the Thanksgiving situation, insisting it was Mom's idea to avoid upsetting the grandparents. He tried pivoting to how hard things were for them financially, especially around the holidays. I didn't budge. I'm sorry if this makes things hard for you, but maybe it'll make you appreciate me for more than my paycheck. I love you and Mom, but I need to take care of myself too. I'm not doing this to hurt you. I'm doing it because I can't keep being treated this way. So you're just abandoning your family? He shot back. His voice had a desperate edge. Right before Christmas? Do you know how much you're upsetting your mother? That hit a nerve, but I stayed firm. Mom upset herself by choosing to exclude me. Look, I hope you both figure things out. Maybe it's time you stand on your own feet. I've given you enough help. He was still yelling as I pulled the phone away from my ear. I hung up mid-rant, my heart pounding. I loved my parents. That was what made this so hard, but I couldn't continue like before. Immediately, he tried calling back, then Mom tried. I turned my phone to silent and curled up on the couch, exhausted but feeling a strange peace. I realized I was crying, tears of frustration and relief. It was heartbreaking to cut them off, but freeing at the same time. I did it. I actually did it. Fallout. They did not take it well. That much was obvious. The voicemails started pouring in within hours. Mom's voice was a mix of fury and tears, sobbing that I was tearing the family apart. Dad left messages apologizing 1 minute and chastising me the next for turning my back on my own blood. Mandy sent a text that simply read, "Enjoy watching us struggle. Hope it was worth it." I answered Mandy, keeping my tone as calm as I could. I don't want anyone to struggle. I just need you all to understand how much I've been doing and how badly I was hurt. I'm here if you ever want to actually talk. She left me on read. The first couple of nights, I won't lie, I wrestled with guilt. I hardly slept. At one point, I found myself scrolling through old family photos on my phone. Last Thanksgiving, all of us smiling around the table, and I broke down sobbing. Would we ever smile like that again? Guilt washed over me in waves, but then I'd remember why I had to do this. Every time I closed my eyes, I'd picture Mom crying or imagine them not being able to afford groceries. The urge to call and apologize, to fix it all by reinstating the money, almost broke me. But then I'd replay that awful phone call from Mom telling me not to come to Thanksgiving. The look on my face reflected in the dark bedroom window was always the same. A mix of sorrow and determination. I had to do this for my own self-respect. By mid-December, we still hadn't talked beyond those hostile messages. I resigned myself to the silent standoff. Part of me grieved. It felt like the family bond was truly severed. But another part of me felt justified. I had needed to do this for so long, and finally I had. Then, on Christmas Eve, they showed up. It was around 8 p.m. I was home, getting ready to watch a movie with some Chinese takeout. My new tradition for Christmas Eve, apparently. The buzzer to my apartment went off unexpectedly. When I cracked open the door, I froze. There stood my mom and sister in the hallway. Mom's eyes were red-rimmed. She looked like she hadn't slept in days, and her shoulders were hunched as if bracing for me to yell. Mandy wouldn't meet my eyes, staring at the floor. I was so stunned, I just stood there. My heart was thudding as I tried to steady myself. Finally, I stepped aside and murmured, "Come in." They walked in gingerly. Mom looked around my place, probably the first time she'd seen how I live in New York, and Mandy lingered near the door, arms crossed. We settled into an awkward triangle in my small living room. Me in the armchair, Mom and Mandy side by side on the couch. The space between us was filled with silence and years of unspoken resentments. Mom spoke first, voice trembling. "I know it's late and it's Christmas Eve, but we wanted to see you." "You didn't come home, so we came here," Mandy added a bit defensively. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice even. I didn't think I was welcome at home, to be honest. Mom winced. "I never said you weren't welcome at Christmas." I raised an eyebrow. After being told not to show up for Thanksgiving, did you really expect me to just arrive for Christmas like nothing happened? You never called to say otherwise. She looked down at her hands. I guess I didn't know how to. A tear rolled down her cheek and she brushed it away. I'm so sorry, James, about everything. I sat up straighter, not expecting that admission so quickly. Sorry for everything covers a lot of ground. Mind being specific? She swallowed hard. For asking you not to come to Thanksgiving, that was wrong. Mandy spoke softly. It was messed up. We know. Mom continued, her words halting. I told myself I was trying to avoid a scene with your grandparents. I thought maybe it would be easier for you if you didn't have to face their comments. But I was fooling myself. I was really just being a coward. I didn't stand up for you like I should have. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. It hurt more than anything they could have said, Mom. She nodded, tears spilling now. I know, I see that now. The last few weeks without you. It made me see a lot of things. Mandy looked at me, her eyes softer than before. We missed you, and not just because of the money. At the mention of money, Mom grimaced. We borrowed from Uncle Ron to get by. It was humiliating to tell him why we were short. We haven't told anyone else what happened, just that you had to work through the holidays. She paused, taking a shaky breath. This isn't about the money, James. Or at least, it's not just about that. It's about us. I felt a lump in my throat as she spoke. This was the most direct I'd ever heard my mother be about our relationship. I realized, she went on carefully, that we were losing you, that maybe we'd already lost you, and it was our fault. She reached over and took my hand. Her hand was cold and trembling. I don't want to lose you, sweetheart. I don't care what anyone thinks anymore. I just want my son. My vision blurred with tears. I don't want to lose you guys either. But I also can't keep living like before. It was killing me inside. Mandy uncrossed her arms and leaned forward, voice small. We were awful. I was awful too. We took you for granted. I took you for granted. She bit her lip. I guess I was jealous, you know? You were the successful one. I always felt like Mom and Dad were proud of you for all you did, but then they'd turn around and act like what you are is something to be ashamed of. It was confusing, and I can't imagine how that felt for you. Hearing my sister choke up made something loosen in my chest. She and I weren't particularly close growing up, too different and a few years apart, but I never realized she had her own tangle of emotions about all this. It felt like I had to buy my place in the family, I said quietly. And even then, I was only allowed to occupy that place as long as I played by your rules. Mom squeezed my hand, tears still flowing. I'm sorry, I was wrong. We were wrong. There it was, the apology I dreamed of, delivered in a shaky voice by my mother sitting on my couch on Christmas Eve. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting it sink in. I'm not asking you to forgive us right away, Mom continued. I want us to try to mend this. We'll do whatever it takes. I'll do whatever it takes. I opened my eyes and saw them both watching me anxiously. I had the power here in this moment, not something I was used to feeling with my family. Part of me wanted to lash out and demand why it took this much for them to treat me like a son. But a larger part of me just felt relief. I want to mend it too, I said slowly. But things have to change. For real. No more hiding who I am. No more treating me like I'm something to be ashamed of. And I'm not going back to paying for everything either. I'll help if there's an emergency, but I need you to try to stand on your own feet. Promise me that. We will, Mom said immediately. We've already started cutting back, and your dad is talking to an old friend about a job. We'll figure it out. I don't want you to feel like we only want you for your money. Yeah, Mandy added, wiping her nose. I got a job. Just part-time at a store for now, but it's something. I can't just sit around expecting you to bail me out. That's not fair. I was surprised to hear that. It made me smile a little. That's good. Honestly, I'm glad to hear it. We talked more, cautiously feeling our way through this new honest territory. Mom admitted that Dad had decided not to come. He was still too angry and maybe embarrassed to face me. That hurt, but I understood. He would have to come around in his own time, if at all. It wasn't all kumbaya. There were a few raw moments and old habits creeping in, but it felt like lancing a boil. Ugly but necessary to start healing. By the end of the conversation, We had the beginnings of understanding. They stayed for about an hour and a half. We didn't resolve everything, but it was a start. As they got up to leave, Mom made me take the tin of cookies. "I made your favorite," she said, as if that could erase the past. Still, the gesture mattered. At the door, we all hugged. A real, genuine hug. Mom held on a long time, whispering, "I love you so much." I hugged her back and whispered, "Love you too." Mandy even hugged me and murmured, "Merry Christmas, bro," and thanked you for giving us a chance to make things right. I hugged her and wished her a Merry Christmas too. As I closed the door after walking them out, I felt an incredible lightness. The situation was far from a Hallmark movie resolution, but it was real. They actually seemed to understand, or at least were trying to. Peace and freedom. I spent the rest of Christmas Eve sipping a cup of hot cocoa by my window, watching gentle snowflakes spiral down to the silent city street. I cracked the window open and let the frigid air brush against my face. The city was unusually still, as if the world itself were pausing to let me absorb how everything had changed. My phone buzzed with a text, this time from Mom. A simple, "Merry Christmas." We made it back to the hotel. "Thank you for talking with us. I love you." A heart emoji followed, something she'd never sent me before. I replied, "Merry Christmas, love you too." Then I added, "Tell Dad I hope he's okay. I'm here when he's ready to talk." I hoped she would show him that message. I wasn't going to be alone on Christmas Day either. Jason and Priya had made me promise to come by for brunch, and I knew I'd actually be able to enjoy it without that familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. I was heading into the future with people who loved me for me. Standing up to my family was the hardest thing I've ever done, but it taught me I deserved to be treated with respect. That hard-won knowledge was worth everything it cost. Whatever came next, I had reclaimed my independence and my self-worth, and I knew no one could take that away from me again. It wasn't the picture-perfect ending to a holiday movie. There was no grand family dinner where all was suddenly forgiven, but it was real, and it was ours. I'd take that over a Hallmark card any day. Before I drifted off to sleep, I caught myself smiling. This Christmas morning, I truly felt something I hadn't in a long time. Free.